Welcome. I'm here with Kim Menounos, who is Assistant Manager of the Upper Fraser Region, Fraser Basin Council.
That's right.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us today. Kim, can you please share an example of a recent air quality management success story in your community and tell us what made it a success?
Overall, I would go to our organization as a success story in and of itself, and I'm referring to the Prince George Air Improvement Roundtable. It's a multi-stakeholder collaborative roundtable with members from industry, the community, local community groups, public members, the University of Northern British Columbia, Northern Health Authority, and the local governments. So because it's a roundtable, each member contributes equally to the group, and no one group is sort of in the hot seat. It's not we have no regulatory authority, so it's entirely voluntary. And it's a success story because over the past 10 years, the group has pushed towards improvements in local air quality. And so just now at the end of our phase 3 of our air quality management plan, we're able to report that we have seen a decreasing trend in average PM 2.5 levels, and there's evidence to show certain sectors have made gains, and we're a small group, so we don't have a huge budget. It's difficult to pinpoint exactly where the improvements were made, but overall, I think the community can be very proud of the work that we've done.
Great, thank you. Can you discuss ways in which public health and air quality management have been integrated in your community?
Our Northern Health Authority is a real leader, I think, in incorporating air quality concerns into resource development. And of course, Prince George is where I'm located, and resource development is a major factor in the northern economy, well, in our entire province's economy, but northerners tend to live it every day and work and eat, sleep, breathe the results of that natural resource those natural resource industries, be it forestry, mining, natural gas. So our Northern Health Authority has integrated air quality concerns health concerns resulting from the natural resource industries into a unit called the Health and Resource Development Unit that directly address and work on policy and measures to incorporate concerns and assessments into the environmental assessment sort of process, so more almost a social and health assessment.
Great, thanks. Citizen science, we've been discussing with everybody. How do you see the role of citizen science in air management evolving?
Well, I think evolving is the key term there. I'm not sure I see the future of that clearly. I know that summers like we had last year, 2017 was a very smoky summer, I know province-wide, and like nationwide. A lot of provinces saw smoky conditions, and we certainly felt that in the northern half of the province. As citizens are more and more aware of how those conditions affect them directly, they are more aware of tools that are available to them. So I think we're just maybe at the cusp of seeing more citizen engagement, but what that looks like with respect to personal air quality monitors, I'm not totally sure. Yeah.
What are some of the biggest air quality management challenges for your community, both right now and in the coming decade, which might be things you've already mentioned? And what new tools or approaches do you think will be needed to address those changes?
Well, as I've mentioned, wildfires were a major challenge for all of us in the north. And I think that's one that sort of the air quality is the canary in the coal mine. We knew that landscape level fire events were going to be an increasing issue with climate change, but how they were going to directly affect us on a community and individual level, I think, we have to live it to understand it. So definitely that's a major issue that's going to need to be faced, but it's sort of in the unmanageable realm from the community perspective, that's definitely, that's landscape level stuff that needs to be addressed by policy and governments. And I hope that, I know they're listening. I know there's discussions. So what tools we have as a community, information, education, overall, sort of annual, year-long air quality improvements and management so that those events aren't as devastating. And then public perceptions, about their own contributions to our air quality problems. It's really easy in a town like Prince George, where we have 3 pulp mills and an oil refinery within our city limits, for the public to look at those industries and absolve themselves of their own contributions via wood smoke, via exhaust emissions, dust, things that they may actually have some impact on. The disconnect between the perception of their own contributions versus the real problem and the source of those problems is something that we really need to work on. I think the tool for that is continued education, continued messaging, potentially some stronger tools. I don't want to say bylaws, but maybe down the road to regulate some of those things. There's a real misconception in Prince George that odor is the real air quality problem. Not that it's not, because it is a problem. If people perceive that it's a problem, then it is a problem. However, we don't know the health links with air odor from total reduced sulfur versus PM 2.5, where the research is clear that that's a concern. So we'll have to look at our targets and reassess in the coming term.
Right. Climate change is a global problem, of course, but what role do you think that cities and provinces should play in addressing it?
Climate change is a really, really big conversation, and I'm so glad that the BC Lung Association has incorporated that into today's agenda. It's really wonderful to hear the experts speaking about that and those different perspectives. So I'm not an expert in climate change, but I really feel strongly that we need to maintain and not let up on mitigation, keep working towards reducing our impacts and use of fossil fuels. Although that's tricky in terms of from an air quality perspective, because for residential heating, for example, does that mean going back to wood heat, or is that going to electricity, where some families may not be able to afford to go to a cleaner fuel? But I know that there's the green technology is just, we keep saying it's on the horizon, but it really needs to arrive, and we need to open the doors and be more receptive to incorporating greener technologies into our energy needs immediately, not sometime in the future. And then on the adaptation side, just being prepared and resilient for the effects of climate change. I used to be an urban forester. I'm a forester still at heart, but I used to work in the urban forest in Prince George, and I think the green infrastructure in a city is going to be increasingly important. So I think a lot of dollars could really be invested in planting trees that will be long-living, pollution-resistant, and pest-resistant. There's climate change has all kinds of implications, not just in air quality, but in integrated resource management, pest management. So all of those things combined, I think we can really respond by being diverse in our actions and in our response.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks very much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here.